Hello learners, welcome to National Institute of Upper Schooling. It's matter of proud privilege for NIOS and NIS learners that our expert is Dr. S.K. Mahapatra. On the behalf of NIOS, I welcome to Dr. S.K. Mahapatra. Welcome Dr. S.K. Mahapatra.
Thank you.
It's very interesting that our expert will discuss about the burning topic. Can you guess, learners? Yes, it is increasing population and depleting resources. Can you tell about the population, sir?
Population in a normal or general sense, when we say, it is nothing but the number of persons in a particular area. But it is not limited to that number of persons. Actually, whenever we analyze any population, population has two aspects. One is the quantitative aspect, another one is qualitative aspect. Whenever we say quantitative aspect, we mean the number. Whenever, for example, we say number of persons growth rate, maternal mortality rate, birth rate, death rate, these are all related to number or quantitative aspects of population. But the other side is, which is very important, is the qualitative aspects of population. Whenever we say qualitative aspects of population, we mean is that the general condition or attributes of that particular group of population. Let me clarify it with a little bit example. That whenever we talk about qualitative aspects, we mean educational status, health condition of the people, or we say the gender or female status in the society. Whenever we are referring this type of aspects in a population, we say these are the quality of a population. For example, in India, if we look at that, there are many India, you know that India has the largest number of illiterate population in the world. So it reflects on qualitative sides of the population. So as a whole, if you look at, then a population has quantitative as well as qualitative aspects.
Okay, sir. Sir, what do you mean about the increasing of population?
This is normally all over the world. There is a, I'll call it a myth, in the sense that there is all over world. People say that India and China. As you know, that India and China are the two countries in the world which has a billion plus population. But let us not look at it at a sheer number. What I told you in the beginning is that we have to look at quantitative as well as qualitative aspects. So, it is always better to look at the qualitative aspect. Yes, we are concerned that India has a large number of population, which is 1.2 billion population. If you look at the 2011 census, it has the almost 1.21 billion of population. If you look at in Indian terms, we can say it is 121 crores of population. Okay, if you look at that number, you will feel that it's a huge number. But I am not concerned about that. My concern is that we have to look at the number in terms of qualitative aspect. As I referred earlier, that we have a large number of illiterate population. That is one of the major concerns. Another major concern is that infant mortality rate. The infant mortality rate in technical terms, if we clarify it, it is number of death of children below 1 year of age. These all things, maternal mortality rate, these are the all things we have to address if we want to project in the world. Because let me tell you one thing, there is a long debate which is going on all over the world, whether this particular population is a bane or boon, or in a simpler term, if I will say, whether this population, the sheer number of population is good for India or not. And there is this debate is going on, and most of the Western people or Western academician, if you look at, they are of the opinion that it is not good. But let us convert this number to our benefit, which will be a great beneficial for India, because this number, if you convert into, that is what we say, population as a human resource. If we train these people, because India, that's what in technical terms we say, the demographic dividend, that this demographic dividend which India has, if we convert this to into a resource, it will be, I don't have any doubt that India will be one of the superpower. So in the sense, we have to look at more on qualitative aspects, like their education, their health, their food and nutrition, because again, if I'll refer that maximum people living in the hunger, they are in India. If you look at more number, in terms of number, so we have to focus on that. uh, Malnutrition, we have to focus on that. So rather going on number, so let us focus on these qualitative aspects, and if we are able to succeed, then I think nobody can check India. India will be one of the superpower, because we have already many countries are feeling the threat, that India and China is emerging as a superpower. So it will be really a superpower when we improve these qualitative aspects of Indian population, rather than uh, going on this stereotyping that this huge number will be a problem. The number is a problem. We have to control that number, but side by side we have to focus on the other issues.
Okay, sir. You mean to say, is growth of population exploiting our resources?
Yes, addition of a number is definitely putting pressure on resources. What does it mean? This means that if you one children or one baby come to the earth, uh, he needs some food, some shelter, some. So where does this food, shelter, and will come? It will come naturally from the whatever the existing resources. And whenever we debate about the resources, particularly our major concern is the finite resources. Means the resources which are limited in number. Means land, we cannot increase the land, soil, water, forest, these are very limited resources. So whenever we are saying that the number is increasing, yes, definitely it is putting pressure, and it is putting pressures, and that is being reflected in different aspects. So in that sense, if you are talking about the growth of number putting on pressure, then it is fine. But another side we have to look into. Whenever we discuss, we say that addition of one person in USA is equivalent to 20-25 persons in India. What does it mean? This means that the amount of resource what 25 Indians consume is consumed by one Americans or Europeans or any persons in the developed part of the world. So if you look at addition of one number in developed countries is equivalent to addition of 25 numbers in developing countries. So we have to look at in that aspect also. This means the per capita amount of consumption. So their lifestyle is entirely different, very highly consumeristic, and very resource consumption rate is very high. So in that sense, again, that is also not good. So we have to keep both the perspectives in the mind while discussing about the impact on resources by a individual. We cannot generalize the thing. We have to see both the sides. So yes, the number is a problem, but we have to control the number, and the number is putting pressures on resources. But then both the view has to be taken into consideration.
Okay, sir. Why is resources conservation?
Yeah, that's what I told you. That in the beginning I told you that the resources are finite. Means the land we cannot increase. The water resources which is available we cannot increase it. Rather we can recycle it, regenerate it, preserve it. Same with the forest product. And whenever for survival of the humanity or survival of the human earth, we need to preserve these resources. Let me tell you two very famous quotation or the famous line. When India got independence, the question a British journalist asked Mahatma Gandhi that what do you want? Do you want that India should follow the British kind of development? Gandhiji replied in a very simple way that if the kind of development the British or UK has achieved on the basis of the resources generated from the 5 continents. Remember, all the 5 continents was the colony of UK or British. So that much of resources they have taken away from these countries, depriving the people of those countries, and they developed. If the same kind of model you want to implement in India, then he asked how many continents India needs. So we cannot follow this pattern. So that is why in 1986, that was a concern all over the world. So all over the world they unite under the United Nations. They came together and a report came into existence, which we very technical term we call the Brundtland Commission report. The Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was the then Norwegian Prime Minister, under her chairmanship, a report was came into existence, which we call Our Common Future. If you today, if you look at people are talking about sustainable development, that sustainable development term came into existence during that time. This is a very the term is very significant, which means meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. That's a very if you look at the statement, it looks very nice. That in the sense, whatever you consume, think that as if you are not depriving the future generation which are coming into in future. Because what exactly is happening is that day by day, if you look at, the land is shrinking, the water is shrinking, two ways, quantitatively and qualitatively. If you look at, let me give you, for our learners, let me give you a very simple example. Water is there, Yamuna is there, or like Yamuna, there are many rivers are there, but can we drink that water? Can we use that water in the agricultural field? We cannot, because these are so highly contaminated. It is coming into our vegetables which we are growing, so it is hampering us. So in terms of quantity, that water is there, but can we consume it? So sustainable development says that you do it in such a manner that we can preserve it in terms of quantitatively as well as in terms of qualitatively, because that is more important. Air is there. In Delhi, the air is there, but that breathing that air, you are getting much more diseases. Whether that air is as a resource or a liability, we have to think about that. So that is the problem.
How can we resources conservation?
Yeah, that is very important, and I think there is not a very no shortcut or a very straightforward answer is there. You have to think about your local situation. Yes, there are various methods which is generally prescribed, and whenever we talk about natural resource conservation, we generally give stress on 3-4 technical things. One is we talk about finding out new alternatives. Rather than putting pressure on the existing resources, can we find out certain things which can be used resource hampering the existing resource? That is one way. Discovering satellites, we are using satellites, discovering new resources. So that is going on. Second one, the resource which we are using, can we use it again and again? Technical terms we say it is recycling. For example, everybody knows in the urban areas, what we do is that whenever this wastewater released from the household industries, we keep it, recycle it, and we are using it in some purposes in which generally we don't use fresh water, like we are using it for gardening purpose. Rather than using fresh quality water, we recycle it and reuse it. Paper. So this is another way. Another way is substitution. For example, this particular studio in which we are sitting, this is made up of wood. Can we find out a substitute without using this wood? We can use something else, fiber, which may not put pressure on the forest. So this is known as substitution. Another method is the efficient use. Generally, whenever I talk in classroom, I say that earlier, whenever we used to drive a vehicle, if you look at very carefully, the car mileage was less than 10 kilometers. Today, the mileage we are using the same 1 liter of petrol. If you look at the motorbike, now it has increased up to 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers. What does this mean? We using this 1 liter of petrol consumed for only 20 kilometers, now we have increased the efficiency up to 120 kilometers. So another 100 kilometers we can drive by using the same amount. So these are traditionally in a resource management, these are the methods we use. But whenever we use this method, we have to be very careful, and we have to, one thing to be kept in mind, that there is a need, we have to create awareness among the people. Until unless people are make aware, and people only awareness won't solve it. Awareness as well as people have to practice it in life. Many people has awareness, everybody has awareness, but whenever we convert that awareness into practice, then only we will be able to sustain this resources.
The term of population.
Yep, as I explained you that that population has two aspects, that is quantitative and qualitative. And let us look at the growth of population in India. And if you look at, there is a very good diagram or line diagram. If you look at that, you will find that that is 1921 is the year in which there is a dip, slightly dip in the graph, and that is the year in which there was a decline of population in India, and that is why we call it the year of great demographic divide. It may that if you look at that 1921 years, that preceding years, what happened that in India there was a huge epidemic of plague, and lots of people died due to famine including plague. So there was a huge loss of human being. So that is why there is a slightly dip in the growth of population in that particular year.
But I think another reason is World War, First World War.
Yeah, First World War, I don't think so. First World War has any major impact as far as India is concerned. One of the factor maybe, but these are the two, the Great Famine as well as the plague. These are the main two reasons. But 21 onwards, if you look at the graph, it has risen very sharply. Initially, it has dipped little, and then it has rise sharply, and it continued till 1991. And till 1991, if you look at again, if you look at analyze the growth rate, dividing it birth rate as well as death rate, you will find that death rate has declined very steadily, drastically. Means if the death rate was around that time 48, and it has reduced to 9. So just imagine 48 to 9, whereas the birth rate was also equivalent to 48, 49, but it has reduced up to 27. So the huge gap between birth rate and death rate is the major cause. We were not able to control our birth rate. Yes, due to improvement in medical science, we were we are successful in controlling the death rate, but we are not able to control the birth rate. if we compare with the death rate. So there is a huge gap between birth rate and death rate that leads to huge growth of population. And 91 onwards, though I'll say that it is not up to desirable, but yes, from 1991 onwards, 1991, 2001 was a major, and 2011 this present census, you will find there is a slight decline. We have in the process of declining the growth rate. So in demographically, if you look at India's growth of population, you will find that we divide it in 4 categories: pre 1921, 1921 to 81, and then 91 and 91, 2001, 2011. So this is a broadly, if you look at the growth of population, then we will find that there is a broad 3 distinct characteristics, and this is nothing but due to the change in birth rate as well as death rate. But the thing is that now we have to give more stress on birth rate, because the decline in birth rate has not yet up to the satisfaction level. We have to work on that, and for that we have to create awareness among the people, so that the birth rate has to be brought down up to a significant level like death rate.
Sir, how is growth of population impact on environment?
See, I explained that population has a direct impact on the resource consumption. And if you look at resource consumption, one, in terms of when we are consuming the resources, what we are doing is that we are producing many which we call it chain effect. Means we are in terms of industrialization, we are using the resources for our own development, but in that process we are polluting the environment. In that process, what we are doing, for industrialization, we are deriving the natural resources for our industries, we are doing deforestation. For our all the purposes, we are consuming the water. So as a result, what is happening, there are many environmental issues which are emerging. This is not only for India, this is now becomes a global problem. Now we call it as a global environmental problem. This deforestation, this pollution, or this decline of water is not only limited to a country, means India. It is because pollution, you cannot check it within the boundary of India. If you pollute this in India, it will also have effect in surrounding countries. It will have impact on the very distant places. There are many environmental, when that acid rain, there is one effect, acid rain we call it. When they analyzed in UK, it is 30 years back, that it has happened due to some industrialization processes in USA. So now these issues are emerging as a global issues, like global warming. Global warming means rise in temperature all over the earth. So this is nothing to do with only our country. If we say that no, it is happening in USA, it won't affect us, but it has impact on India. Simultaneously, if we do it in India, it will have impact on other countries. Climate change, this is another bigger problem which is emerging, and this climate change problem is affecting all of the natural resources. So this issue is very complex. It's not that one issue is affecting another issue. All these issues are interrelated. Due to climate change, we have an impact on our forest, we have impact on our water. See, this climate change is leading to the melting down of our glaciers, and people are saying the perennial rivers which are talking about, that Ganga, Yamuna, the rivers which are originating from Himalaya, after sometimes it will be a seasonal river, because there will be no glacier. It will have impact on your water. So definitely this issue is very complex, and somewhere the other the population and their lifestyle or their consumption pattern has impact on these issues.
I expect our learners that you have enjoyed and understood our burning topic. Thank you, learners. Thank you.